opening words. Let us not pray to be sheltered from dangers, but to be fearless in facing them. Let us not beg for the stilling of our pain, but for the heart to conquer it. Let us not look for allies in life's battlefield, but to our own strength. Let us not crave an anxious fear to be saved, but hope for the patience to win our freedom. Grant us that we may not be cowards, feeling your mercy in our success alone, but let us find the grasp of your hand in our failure.
And I chose this meditation for us to help us think about our becoming. I am wondrously wrought, partly shaped by my biology, partly shaped by my culture, and partly self-shaped. I am so wonderfully fashioned that the workings of myself amaze and confuse me. I know I have the power to choose among many paths, yet most of the time I am on automatic pilot, acting out of little examined assumptions, values, rituals, myths, appetites, and impulses. I can meet life in many ways. I can be tough-minded. I can be tender-hearted. I can move between activity and quietness. I can express my uniqueness and individuality, and I can forget myself in commitment to family and community. I can judge, and I can bear witness to the good and the evil around me, and I can forgive. I can analyze, theologize, figure the world out, and I can listen to the still small voice of conscience, intuition, to spirit. In all the ways of meeting life and more are part of the potential that is me, but I'm afraid to move very far or very fast from the ways that have become comfortable. I seek the knowledge that may illuminate new possibilities in life, and I seek the courage to try them. Most of all, I pray for wholeness.
Who was that by?
That is by Robert Walsh. And it's also from the Unitarian publication, 7 Principles in Word and Worship.
One of the things that we have, a problem, kind of our 5-year-old grandson is helping him realize that he's got to practice. Because he's a lot of practice. He's a pianist, and we say things like practice makes perfect, and he wants to be able to do something and do it automatically. Like, why should I go out and shoot basketball? He loves basketball, but then to get him to practice those things, it's a struggle to get him to do that. So I disagree in somewhat with that reading, that sometimes we have to deal with things in the moment when they come, and we're not practiced for them. But I think, there are certain things we have to practice at to get better at. One of the first things I had to do in seminary, we had to do as seminary students, freshmen starting out in seminary at Emory Candler School of Theology, was to write a paper. The title was On Becoming a Parson. And if any of you know that famous book in 1961 that was published, Carl Rogers, On Becoming a Person. It was a best-selling book titled On Becoming a Person. That was a takeoff on that, On Becoming a Parson. And of course, On Becoming a Parson, one of the things we had to talk about in that paper was our call into ministry. Tell us about your call into ministry. Well, I never really felt called, so that was a difficult one for me. The only thing I could think of was when my 3rd grade teacher told my mother that I talked too much. Well, that's good for being in ministry, talking a lot. So anyway, I never really felt called. And so anyway, on becoming a person, on becoming a parson, and took practice. You had to go to school, learn. You had to go to seminary. Of course, some people self-ordain themselves, but In the Methodist Church anyway, you had to go ordained. But so I've taken that and made this title on becoming a human, and what it means to become a human. And we think that's kind of a strange question because we call ourselves human beings. But I would rather think of it in terms of human becoming, and I think I need to address that in that reading, is we're a whole lot less human beings than we are human becoming. Becoming human, a fully functioning, developed human being, and what that means. Maybe you've seen the bumper sticker, and Don put it in the newsletter, humankind be both. Humankind be both. Well, I started thinking about that, and I thought, well, wait a minute. Being human, to me, is being kind. Being inhumane is being unkind. What makes us human is being kind. Human being, flip it around, being human, being kind. So you have to think about that. Are we really human yet in this world? I love the image that Don, I don't know why Don chose that image. If you saw the newsletter, the image he put for this talk this morning was not about humankind, being kind. Does anybody remember what the image was? It was the starving children of Gaza. He put that image there. Well, wait a minute. How does that fit the title on becoming human? Because it's everything but being human. What is being done in Palestine, in Ukraine, and in America is not human. It's not human. It's inhumane. If you look at the definition of inhumane in the dictionary defines it as lacking human qualities such as compassion. And then a little hyphen or whatever, period, dot over it, cruel. Cruel. So what we're experiencing around the world and in our own nation today is inhumane, cruel. Now, the big question for all of us is what do we do about that? Because if you feel like you're not doing anything, you feel frustrated, and you can be driven into despair because you're not doing anything. So I say to you, find some little something you can do. It doesn't matter what it is. You don't have to do what I do, and I don't have to do what you do. But just some little something you can do. Even if you're kind to say a Hispanic person. We were telling our grandson, if you can help this person feel safe around you, what color their skin, doesn't matter. If you can help that person feel they're safe with you, you can, that's something you can do. You can be kind to them. Human, the concept human is, at first I thought it was an evolutionary concept. We've evolved. We've evolved through time. And so I typed in, is compassion, is morality an evolutionary concept? And I got an AI answer, and it was flat no. Flat no. So I was wrong. As a human species, we have evolved in terms of our physical, the physical part of who we are. Every embryo has a tail. Did you all know that? You knew that, right? Every embryo, every human fetus has a tail. but it loses that tail. Because over time, through evolution, humans slowly lost their tail when they came out of the water. So we have that tail, but we lose it. But have we lost snake-like qualities? You've heard the phrase snake in the grass, right? And that's what we're dealing with a little bit here, is snake in the grass. And did you know that our ancestors were furry? But over time, we lost the fur. But we can be sheep in wolf's clothing. Did you know over time our ancestors had canine teeth that came down to here? Did you know that? And now I got this off of AI too, but I'm gonna read it to you, so I'm not making it up. Here we go again, I lost it. Oh, here it is. This is AI. The long, fang-like teeth of our primitive ancestors were their canines, which have shrunk significantly over millions of years. But think how rampant in our culture is road rage. It's rampant and it's frightening. And I could tell you some horror stories about road rage. Of a young girl in Hendersonville who blew a horn. The guy got out and shot her in the head 3 times for blowing the horn. Now, there was a program on TV the other day that said road rage begins before you get in the car. Yeah. It begins before you get in the car. It begins with the way you're living. And right now, we have leaders who are trying to instill a lot of anger in us today and fear, and which is slowly, this is next door neighbor to rage. So, we've lost those teeth physically, but we haven't lost, in terms of our emotional, psychological development, we've not lost that tendency to become like ravenous wolves and act, let's say act like animals, but even some animals don't act this way. I think the better term probably is beastly or savage. Let me read you that. Let me read you. When I typed in morality as an evolutionary concept, AI said no. Moral development is not the same as evolution. Though evolution provides a biological foundation, our teeth shrunk, canine. Evolution provides a biological foundation for our capacity for morality. Moral development is an individual, lifelong process, becoming. I'll read that again because that's important. Moral development is an individual, lifelong process of learning to distinguish right from wrong. While evolution is a multi-generational process by which heritable traits change in population over time. So moral development is an individual, lifelong process. So, okay, now we got it done, right?
Yeah.
So, where was I? Lifelong process. Well, if it wasn't important, if it was important, I wouldn't have forgotten it. So, I'm gonna quickly. I don't want you to feel like you're in school again at a lecture, but I want to show you. I want to show you a little part of the evolution of both our idea of ourselves and and that moral development through the ages. And I'm going to use some slides to do it. Let's see what this first slide is. But before I show you these slides, and I want to work through this kind of quickly because I want to get to one image that's, I think, really transitional for our species in terms of moral development. If we go back in time to our primitive ancestors, we learn that we know that they did not distinguish between human and animal and plant, our primitive ancestors. And so in some primitive images from mythology, if I get this right, I'll just skip that one. For example, if you were to go back and time to our primitive ancestors and say, well, you all worshipped animals, they would say, well, what do you mean we worship animals? We don't know what you mean by animals because we're not different from animals. And so our ancestors it's not that they worshipped animals, it's that they didn't distinguish between themselves and the animal or the plant world. There was no distinction there. Now this is an image from corn growing out of the body of Osiris, because for the ancient Egyptians, Osiris was the corn, and the corn was Osiris. And if you were to say, well, you've got the plant here and you've got the human here, they go, no, they're one. That whole cult of Osiris and the corn being resurrected in Osiris. Osiris, by the way, is the first god resurrected. He's resurrected in the corn. Every time the corn comes up, we say, well, Osiris is resurrecting again, coming back to life. But you have to realize that the main concern for the ancient Egyptians was food and starvation and the threat of starvation. So, Paul Tillich said, God is your ultimate concern. Well, their ultimate concern way back then was staying alive and having food to eat. So the gods and their cults reflected this need to have food. The Egyptians were the first one who knew how to learn how to store food, and they built silos. And if you know the biblical stories, the Hebrew people went to the Egyptians, and the Egyptians would give them a certain amount of food, corn, grain, and that's how they survived. Carl Jung once said, hunger turns food into gods. Hunger turns food into gods. So, the ancient Egyptians didn't know the difference between agriculture, food, and humans. They were all interconnected. I'm going to try to run through these because I don't want to bore you to death. Doggone it, I'm going the wrong way. Come on, okay. Before I get to this one, this is Ezekiel's vision of God, but you've all seen the bull-headed gods and the jackal-headed gods, and you all met bull-headed men. And I have to admit that I'm bull-headed at times. Anyway, what really interests me is this vision of Ezekiel in 1 Ezekiel, where you have Ezekiel's vision of God. I want to find out where I've got it written here because I don't want to miss anything. What in the world? Okay, here it is. God appears to Ezekiel in this vision as a three-part animal: a lion, an eagle, and on the other side you see the horn of the ox. And then on that one side you see a human figure. Now That's how God appeared to Ezekiel. So you have your animal form and you have your human form. Now, the way I interpret that vision was that God was becoming more human. And I don't mean features, I mean, I'll explain in a minute what I mean by that. The human quality emerging from the animals. And it's during this time when Ezekiel was writing and alive and prophesying that we have a major transition in the image of God and how the people saw God. If you go back into the Pentateuch, the older layers of the Bible, what do you find? You find a God who's jealous. He's jealous of other gods. He's jealous when you don't worship him. And when you abandon, he feels abandoned or he feels forsaken, he goes into a rage, often described as being a lion. That's the God of the Pentateuch, the older layers of the Old Testament. But here you're beginning to see a transition and a transformation in how they saw God and how they understood God. It's during this time when that biblical image of God shifts to a God who craves to be worshipped, to a God who has absolute compassion for people. And that's a major transition. The focus is not on I need to be worshipped. The focus is on my compassion for you. And then in that mythology, we find the birth of Jesus Christ, who's supposed to represent the compassion of God. And all the stories Jesus tells are of God's compassion. So the way I read that, may not be the way that other people read it, but the way I read that is you're having this development in morality. You're having this change and this transformation. God becoming more compassionate. Now, we don't make God in our images. We don't make God in our image. We discover who we are in the images of the gods we create. It's a reflection. Just like the Egyptians created this corn cold Cyrus, reflected back to them their lives. We have created this image of God's compassion to reflect back to us who we are and who we can become as humans. Because it's not just that God is up in heaven being compassionate, that the Word became flesh, so the flesh could become the Word so that we could be compassionate. Now the word compassion, do y'all know what that means? It means to suffer with. It means to suffer with. It's painful. Compassion is painful. I mean, if you saw the picture that Don put in the newsletter, or you see the pictures, the images on television, and it pains your heart to see them, that means you're feeling compassion, because compassion starts with empathy. I feel your suffering. I don't just think it up in my head. I feel it, and it hurts. So, you can understand why people don't want to be compassionate, because it's painful. It hurts. It can make you cry. So let's not go there. And I think that's why in some of his teaching, Jesus said that, pick up the cross and follow. It's painful. To be compassionate. But compassion is what makes us human. Human compassion, same thing. And it comes in a world that it came into that world, it comes into our world that's filled with bitterness, with anger, with vengeance. We have a leader who wants revenge. scientists are experimenting with politicians as their test subjects nowadays. Because there's just certain things a rat won't do. That's not very compassionate. That's kind of an aside there. We must recognize first and foremost the humanizing effects of the teachings of people like Buddha, Jesus, Lao Tse, Mohammed, and many others. The humanizing effects of what they taught, of their teaching. You know, when I look at the teachings of Jesus, I think he was a whole lot less concerned about teaching dogma and teaching about God than he was teaching about you. You're the light. You are the light. Don't look at me. Don't look at some guru. Don't look out there, look within your own self and find that light. And awaken that heart to compassion. Live with compassion, as painful as it might be. Which tells me the important role in our culture of modeling as adults, of nurturing our children. I love that reading in our hymnal 584 by Martin Luther King Jr. We must evolve, he said. We must evolve. We must become human. We must live with compassion. We must be willing to suffer with those around us who are suffering. Then he goes on to say, there are some things in our social system to which all of us ought to be maladjusted. My question to you, what are you maladjusted to? You'd probably, I don't know what the answer would be. Don't even. There was an article in the New York Times this morning that said, don't let this become the norm. Don't let this behavior become normal. Maladapt. Don't adapt to it. Okay. I'm going to bring this to a close with these words, and their words: transformation, metamorphosis, being born again. And I don't mean that in a churchy kind of institutional way, but becoming human. Whatever it takes to become human, to help us to become more human. And that is more compassionate. I think deep down inside, I loved the quote from Faye Davis. We are not a drop in the ocean. We're an ocean in a single drop. I mean, I don't know how you think about that, but the way I think about that is we have the whole universe inside of us. We're connected to the whole universe deep inside. We're connected to one another. And that through compassion we learn that we're all one. And so it makes sense that what I do unto the other, pretty much I'm doing to myself. Everything that is going on in the world today by these brutal, cruel leaders, they're doing it to themselves in the long haul. Okay, that's it. Now I was going to go over this, there's the bull-headed man. We're going to do this. I was going to go over the definition of bridle your passions, but we don't have time for that. We'll do that some other time. We're going to sing now. Oh, she's got it. Okay. It's about time.
There's no moon over in the about time. There's a light like a window for all the world to see. A voice cries in the wilderness, sometimes peacefully. I suppose I love most of all when he feels to kiss the land. Lips upon our mother's breast makes the strongest stand. It's about time to start to see it. Earth is our only home. It's about time to start to face it. Can't make it here all alone. It's about time to start to listen to the voices in the wind. It's about time, it's about change, it's about time. There's a man who is my brother, I just don't know his name. I know his home family, cause I know it feels the same. And it hurts me when he's hungry and when his children cry. I too am a father, that little one is mine. It's about time we begin to turn the world around. It's about time we start to make it we've always known. It's about time we start to live it, family of men. It's about time, it's about change, it's about time. It's about peace, it's about plenty, it's about time. It's about you and me together, it's about time.
Thank you. Oh, let's see, that's where we are, aren't we? Final thoughts. Does anyone have any final thoughts, questions, comments, or opposing points of view? Yes, sir, Chris.
I don't appreciate you stealing my rat story. That's my opposing point.
Everything I said was stolen. I got it from somebody. All right, join hands with me, please. Somebody join hands with me. Yeah, let me get it on here.
That's right. We'll make a circle.
Here we go. Sorry. Spirit of life, come unto me, sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion, blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice, roots hold me close, wings set me free, Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.